And welcome viewers for round 8 of the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series in Indianapolis. We're set for a 90-minute race, and unlike we've used to seeing this season, we won't be having any guided cautions because of the race marshal being absent, as well as seems to be absent the entire Glacier TV commentary booth. Will Vincent, Rob Sutherland, they all seems to be pretty occupied at the moment, but well, can't blame him for having a Champions League finals playing tonight and the Indy 500 qualifyings, etc. But let's not let that interfere us, and we're set for 90 minutes of racing, so let's get into it. And the cars are just about to starting to line up on the field as they get set for the pace lap before we go green. Currently, my partner in pain at the moment is Joni Hagner, who's doing the sputtering tonight. He won't be talking anything, so he will be my man on the track. But meanwhile, let's go through as the cars you can see are about to start the pace lap. Let's go through the grid. So on pole position you have Oscar Salin in the sorry about that, in the Mustang class, and lined by Trace McRae in the second spot. Third place, apologize that. So in third place, Steve Brown, followed by David Waters in fourth place. Fifth position, Russell Gleason, and accompanied him on row 3 is Stephen McPherson. Seventh is Dexter Castro. Eighth, Richard Basford, and then we're getting ready for the Mazda lineup, which is being led by Jason Breifogel, followed by Arthur Chen in second place, Stefan Overgaard in third, Giancarlo Lenzi in fourth, Matthew Reinhold in fifth, Eric Biggs in sixth, Joseph Peak in seventh, Stephen Ashbury in eighth. It seems to be a lot of Mazdas tonight. And following through field, fifth row, David Waymond and John Richard in 10th, 11th, Tom Eklin, 12th, Michael Griesinger. 13th is John Montoya, 14th is Peter Brennan, and last in the field, obviously starting for the pits or did not have a qualifying time, Ayrton Ellis in the Mustang. So the only Mustang starting from behind the Mazda MX-5s. As we see, the pace car is leading the field around. So we're set for 90 minutes of racing, and while the pace car is leading the field, we can just have a quick chat about our sponsors. So this Continental Endurance Sports Car Series is sponsored by Safeguard Racing, your home for safety harnesses, belts and head nets. Drive fast, be safe, Safecraft Racing. So 90 minutes, and unlike we've used to seeing during the season, we won't be having marshals setting full course cautions. So we have set for 90 minutes straight without any extra cautions. Local cautions, of course, are in place. And so far from what I've seen, the qualifying, the Mazdas seem to be outpaced by the Mustangs for about 4 or 5 seconds per lap. So expect the Mustangs starting to lap the MX-5s at approximately, my guess would be like lap 20 or something like that. What remains to be seen. It depends on the pace of the slower cars compared to the leaders of the Mustangs. As the field is making its way into the last sequence of corners, and we're about to go green flag, and that's funny. Currently trying to find following Oscar Salin, but cannot find him anywhere. So there we go. And so front row, the great Oscar Salin 84 car, followed closely by 69 Trace McRae, who's been pretty strong this season. Should I say? He just charged his way through several of this season's races, and as the green flag flies and the 90 minutes of Indianapolis is underway. The good start from the front row. Let's see who is gonna be making the brave dive into the turn 1 as they approach hard 90-degree right-hander, sort of a chicane-like former, but it's two separate corners. Oscar Salin is the leader coming through turn 1, followed by Trace McRae in 2nd place. Steve Brown makes his way in 3rd place. David Waters 4th. Meanwhile, Dexter Castro from 7th position makes up 1 spot, so he takes Stephen McPherson going into turn 1. Other than that, the Mustang seems to be getting away on single file. In the MX-5s, Giancarlo Lenzi made up 1 spot from 4th into 3rd. And apparently we have number 16 car who hit the wall even before we ever went green, which is Eric Biggs. And Biggs is going down. He started from, was supposed to start in 6th spot, but he's already down into, I believe it is 11th right now, and going back all the time. So Biggs in early trouble. Meanwhile, no trouble so far for the Mustangs, nor the top 5 of the MX-5 class. Arthur Chan, meanwhile, outside of the picture, Arthur Chan takes the lead, but Jason Breifogel is not giving him anything for free. Currently, we're seeing that battling duo right now. Jason Breifogel in your pictures right now. He's been passed by first Arthur Chan, followed immediately by Giancarlo Lenzi. Lenzi is on fire, started from 4th, is up into 2nd already, and Jason Breifogel having some sort of troubles, must have had some kind of damage, or then he had a jump start or something like that, because he is in the pits in lap 1, and we can have a quick view of the rules of this series as this field is starting to sort itself out. So Stephen McPherson, meanwhile, the Mustangs dropped from 6th place down to 8th, and so far the field seems to be getting through nicely. No wrecks reported from on track. So Jason Breifogel into the pit lane as Oscar Salin still leads the way in the Mustangs. Trace McRae right behind him, 0.2 of a second, only the gap between these two. Actually, the top 5 guys are very much packed. All guys within 3 seconds at the moment, and same cannot be said from the Mazda MX-5s. Arthur Chan has taken the early lead of the race, leads by 0.8 of a second from Giancarlo Lenzi in 2nd place. Stefan Overgaard in 3rd, Matthew Reinhold in 4th, John Richard in 5th, Stephen Ashbury in 6th in the Mazda MX-5s. As we're watching the leading leading 2 Mustangs going side by side out of the last corner, coming to the main straightaway. Trace McRae taking a very low line there, and Oscar Salin loses the position coming out of the last turn. Let's see if he can get a draft out of Trace McRae going into turn 1. Should be able to get a good draft around this racetrack. And they go almost a 3-wide situation for the top 3 Mustangs as they go into turn 1. Let's see who is brave enough to make a dive, and Oscar Salin drops from 1st place down into 3rd during between 2 corners. Yep, nope. Sure, nope. He retakes 2nd place, and Steve Brown has to settle for 3rd right now. But Oscar Salin is not having a strong start of this race. Now he's been overtaken by the inside clean pass by Steve Brown. Steve Brown up into 2nd position. Oscar Salin is going down, and there's a touch by Oscar Salin and David Waters from in the battle for 3rd position, I believe it was. But no damage seems to be caused by that for any of the drivers. And again, we have Biggs spinning in turn 1. Biggs on screen right now is 8th position in the MX-5 class, and not a strong start for Biggs right here. And again, we can see him going wide in the 180-degree left-hander. Biggs, surely he has something wrong with his car, or the setup is just not so much built for Eric Biggs right now. He is in all sorts of trouble here, as we're only in like 3rd lap of the race. So in the first 5 minutes, lots of drama for Eric Biggs. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead of the MX-5 is actually heating up pretty good, because the 02 car of Giancarlo Lenzi is putting all sorts of pressures on the leader. You can see it right here in the screen. Arthur Chan is leads the way in the light green and red car. But Giancarlo Lenzi is charging through and on board right now with Giancarlo Lenzi. He's trying to get a draft from him. Did get a draft. Now he's trying the outside line, which is not that bad of a place to try and overtake him, because the next corner from the right-hander is a tight left-hander. So if you dive in, you do have a good possibility of making the position right now. But Lenzi at the moment decides to back down. Lets Arthur Chan keep the lead. But as we can see right here, Giancarlo has a much better setup with his car, at least in the first couple of corners. Gets a much better, much tighter exits for the corner, doesn't slide off the car as much, doesn't use the steering wheel that much, so Lenzi is looking very strong in this race. Meanwhile, Matthew Reinohl has had some sort of problem in the 44 car, as he has gone from 4th place down into 11th, I think. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Oh, in fact, he made a pit stop. And right as we're currently on board with Giancarlo Lenzi, just to give a quick brief on the series, we have 90 minutes of racing. We have 2 classes, Mustang and MX-5s. And there is a special rule in this series compared to lots of other series, which is a mandatory pit stop. Normally these cars don't have to stop in a 90-minute race, but in this series it's mandatory. So within the first 16 laps, all Mustang drivers have to make their mandatory pit stops, or they will get a penalty for that. And the same applies for the MX-5s, except they have to pit within the first 15 laps. So lap 16 is the last possible pitting option for the Mustangs. As we have a spin, by the way, number 46 car of Peter Brennan spun, and Peter Brennan seems to be out of the race at the moment. It's showing a white row in the telemetry. Have to try and get that what exactly went on there. We'll try to show in the replay later on. But as I said, within the first 15 or 16 laps, all the cars are forced to make that one pit stop. And since we don't have a marshal this time to throw up full course cautions in case somebody wrecks or spins badly, those pit stops are going to be crucial, because now the drivers cannot rely on staying behind the pace car when they make that pit stop. So lots of rule boards in this series, but majority of that went out of the window as with the fact that the marshal was forced to skip this race, or be AFK from this race. So still following Giancarlo Lenzi, but meanwhile, outside of the picture, Trace McRae, number 69 machine, has taken the lead of this race, as we see right here, and he's pulled out over already. Well, sorry for that. Trace McRae took the lead like 1 lap ago, but he's increased the lead, not gained the lead, but increased the lead up to 1.2 seconds the last time by. Steve Brown is in 3rd, David Waters in 4th, and David Waters is also looking very strong behind Steve Brown. So David Waters in the red, number 76 Ford Mustang, trying to lurk his way past Stephen Brown in 82 blue and orange car. So far, no success. And Matt Steffield seems to be sorted out pretty nicely. Giancarlo Lenzi, Stefan Overgaard now also involved closely in the lead battle of the MX-5s. And might as well focus on Giancarlo Lenzi's battle for the lead of the MX-5s, because this is by far the most exciting racing we have at the moment. Big touch! Giancarlo Lenzi rams into the back of Arthur Chan, loses 1 position in the process, so he's now down into 3rd. Wonder if he got any severe damage to the front end of that car, but that was not a smart thing to do this early in the race. We're only 10 minutes into the 90-minute race, and Giancarlo Lenzi just perhaps too eagerly tries to get that lead spot and just make an early escape, and that was a wonder if he has any damage with his car. If he has an option to come into the pits, as everyone has to pit. Like I said earlier, everyone has to pit in this series. But If Giancarlo Lenzi did not suffer any bad damage to his car, which would affect the top speed or the maneuverability of the car, he might have an option. Just stay out and try to regain that, draw that gap back, because with these cars, especially the MX-5, since it's a low-powered car, if you get a good draft out of the to the long straightaways in here, you can gain several tenths of a second within one lap if you have someone to draft with. Whereas if you're all alone on the racetrack, you lose that several tenths per lap. So having a sort of a playing partner through this race would actually be beneficial for MX-5s. So far, everything seems to be fairly clean, according to the on-track. My eyes on track. Meanwhile, David Waters managed to take that third spot away from Steve Brown. So the 76 car of David Waters has taken the third spot. Steve Brown now down into fourth. Russell Gleason in fifth, and Richard Basford, previously in 7th place, has taken the spot from Stephen McPherson and up into 6th. But as we can see right here, not that much. Stephen Brown is not giving anything for free as we come into the long main straight. Let's see if he can get a good draft out of David Waters and challenge him going to turn 1. He surely is going to get the draft, but if is it good enough to gain a spot back? Now we can see the draft is starting to be a build up, closing up. Is he gonna get right beside him? Thinks about it at least. Coming into the turn 1 braking zone. No, not this time by. Just shows himself like, I'm still here, not going anywhere, but wasn't successful this time around. But as we can see, the Mustangs are going very sideways. They're really going all at it in the early stages of the race, trying to gain track position as Steve Brown has to make a lot of correction maneuvers with his car, as David Waters just gave him a brief scary moment there, going sideways right in front of him as he was coming out of the corner. But so far everything seems to be smooth. Meanwhile, Giancarlo Lenzi in the MX-5s is going backwards. Wonder if he's going to pit. Yep, Giancarlo Lenzi is in the pits. So, like I predicted, he's maybe because of a damage or something else. But Giancarlo Lenzi makes that early pit stop. We're on lap 6, and Giancarlo Lenzi decides to make an early pit stop. Wonder if he melted his tires going sideways. That might save him a bit of time, especially now that we don't have the full course caution, so the pack won't be gathered back together, even though we might have a severe crash. Meanwhile, Steve Brown, and the previous 4th position holder in the Mustang class, has also made his way into the pits, so he's now back down into 5th. He's going to go down in the last place in the Mustang for sure, because of that pit stop. As we're currently still looking at the leader of the MX-5s, Arthur Chan, in the 50 car, the light green and red car. Still, he decides not to pit. In fact, Giancarlo Lenzi with 4 other Mazda drivers are the only ones who didn't pit. With the 4 other guys are the only MX-5s who have pitted, and Steve Brown is the only Mustang who pitted. So, will be interesting to see. Normally this season we're used to seeing how drivers tend to push that pit stop all the way to the maximum limit, just in the hope of a safety car when they get pit during that. But now, since they don't have that option, it will be interesting to see who decides to pit and when. So the lead battle of the Mustangs still remains 0.6 of a second between Trace McRae and Oscar Salin, but that duo has seriously escaped from David Waters, who is now 5.3 seconds behind Oscar Salin in 3rd position. Russell Gleason Russell Gleason is in 4th position, Dexter Castro in 5th, Stephen McPherson 6th, Richard Basford in 7th, and Steve Brown having made that first pit stop in 8th place, and Ayrton Ellis obviously DNF, so he participated, he joined the session but did not qualify, nor did he enter the grid, so he will be marked as a DNF. Meanwhile, in the MX5 division, Arthur Chan still leads the way. Stefan Overgaard 1.1 seconds behind him, and behind them is a good 10.5 seconds to John Richard in 3rd place. Tom Eklund another 17 seconds for 4th position. Wonder what happened there to cause that dramatic gap. Meanwhile, Tom Eklund in the 4th spot is being hunted down by Michael Griesinger, the 6th car, desperately trying to get that 4th position. As we can see right here, ooh, Griesinger spins around it. All of a sudden, it's a personal mistake by Griesinger. Just comes out of the penultimate corner and just goes on the throttle slightly too hard over the the apex, touches the curb slightly too hard and gets that car sideways. Did not get any damage, but that gives Tom Eklund a bit of breathing space. He actually lost 7 seconds because of that maneuver of his. Meanwhile, lots of MX-5s now deciding the pit. In fact, the top 5 MX-5s are the only ones so far without a pit stop. Jason Breifogel, Joseph Peak, Matthew Reinold, John Montoya, Giancarlo Lenzi, Stephen Ashbury, Eric Biggs, Peter Brennan. Those guys all having made their pit stops right now, but the top 5 MX-5 still no. As we see right here, Michael Griesinger is starting to get pressure from Jason Breifogel, who in fact takes the lead, takes the position away from Michael Griesinger. So Breifogel up into 5th position, I believe he is. That is correct. So Jason Breifogel takes that 5th spot. And Jason Breifogel, in fact, already made his pit stop. So Jason Breifogel now is so-called leader of the so-called pitted MX-5 group. Slight connection problems for Jason Breifogel there. Let's hope that he doesn't get a DNF because of that. That would be a shame. Meanwhile, the Mustang field seems to be settling pretty nicely. So far, Steve Brown still the only pitted Mustang, and only real battle within 1 second seems to be Russell Cleason and David Waters from that 3rd position. But so far, no changes in that either. Meanwhile, Richard Basford and Stephen McPherson trade places in the Mustang for battle for 6th place. So Richard Basford up into 6th. Next on his list is Dexter Castro, 1 second in front of him. So Dexter Castro now in the picture, and there's a pitted MX-5 now in between them, and you can see traffic is going to be a factor here coming to these slow corners, because the MX-5 is more agile around the corner and the entries, but the Mustang will outpace them coming into the straights. So Dexter had a bit of a breathing space there, as the Mustang now goes around the MX-5. And John Richard in the used to be 3rd position in the MX-5 now decides to pit as well. So the pit sequence has started. We're on lap. Mustangs are just beginning their lap 11. Meanwhile, the MX-5s are on lap 10. So they have, both classes now have 5 laps to make that mandatory pit stop. But after that, they can really go all at it. And meanwhile, Giancarlo Lenzi is fought his way around John Montoya. Lots and lots of action going on the racetrack. Giancarlo Lenzi with the fresh tires didn't seem to get that much damage to his car, because he's pulling 147s, 147.1s, and in fact at the moment is excluding the top 2 MX-5 runners, he's the fastest MX-5 on track. So Lenzi on a charge right here, and that 147.1, we have to remember that Giancarlo Lenzi had someone to overtake. So that caused him a bit of ground, and sorry about that little bit of bug in the telemetry. As you can see, it says Jason Breifogel in 3rd spot would be a lap down, but that's only because of the fact that Arthur Chan and Stefan Overgaard are already past the start and finish line, so they are counted as within a several different lap from the others. So that's why they all the remaining guys are shown as a +1 laps, but so far that's not the case. And meanwhile, we have a contact with the 69, Trace McRae. Trace McRae getting past Michael Griesinger. The MX-5 gets a contact at the end of the straightaway, trying to get past these this slower traffic. That's not a pleasant thing to have in the multi-class racing if you're getting involved in the contacts with a different car class. But Trace McRae is still able to hold that 2nd position. Or in fact, I think he lost that lead in the process. Not sure about that. Let's ask our eyes on the track whether Trace McRae lost the lead. You know, at least in my telemetry, Oscar Salim was in the lead before that. So it's have to get a bit of a breathing gap here, as lots and lots of action is going on all over the racetrack, and especially with the MX-5s, that half of the MX-5s not having pitted yet, so positions are changing constantly in the telemetry and also in the score sheets, as some of the guys are making pit stops and some are not. But still Arthur Chan is. Oh, now let's jump into Dexter Castro, because Dexter Castro has been pressured by Richard Basford for 5th position in this race. As you can see, that 2 runners right here, and Richard now has excellent draft. Dexter takes the inside line to cover that turn 1, and meanwhile they're also getting past the lapped MX-5. No overtaking spots for Richard this time by, but luckily for these cars, that's not the only place to overtake around this racetrack. Unlike in F1s, you're able to overtake with a Mustang and MX-5s pretty much throughout the racetrack. Now, the last 3 corners are pretty tight, but other than that, it's just a matter of setting up the pass, get that speed out of the corner, dive to the inside. So at least for now, Dexter Castro gets away with shivers only, but I'm pretty sure Richard hasn't said the last word in this fight. And we're just about approaching the limit of the pitting zone. So the Mustangs are now finishing their 13th lap. The MX-5s are starting the 13th lap. So MX-5s have 2.5 laps of making their pit stops, and the Mustangs have 3 laps to make the pit stops, or they will run into penalties. Now, as Dexter Castro goes wide, as you can see right here, Dexter Castro in the penultimate corner goes slides just a bit too much, loses control of the car, goes to the grass slightly, and just gives enough space for Richard Basford to take that 5th spot away from him. But now he has a good 1.7 seconds to Stephen McPherson in 7th place. So he's not going to get a drafting help from Dexter, at least. And meanwhile, in the MX-5 division, Tom Eklund took the 4th place from Michael Griesinger. In the last corner, Michael Griesinger has to yield, as Eklund just dives into the last corner before the main straightaway. But now Tom Eklund is charging back, as we can see right here. They're already approaching 3, 4, and 5 corners 4 and 5, but no, it seems Eklund has successfully completed that pass. Meanwhile, we have the 2nd pitting Mustang of Richard Basford, who also drops behind Steve Brown in the process. That was a bit unexpectedly long pit stop for Richard Basford. Steve Brown did an 8.9 second pit stop, meanwhile Richard had a 20.5 seconds. And same can be said also for the MX5 division, because half of the field that pitted managed to do a pit stop below 10 seconds, whereas those that went above 10 seconds, they actually did 26 and 36 second pit stops. So long pit stops for those guys. Meanwhile, the leading MX5 duo is in the pits at the same time, Stefan Overgaard and Arthur Chan. And Stefan Overgaard, I don't know if, let's see right here. Yeah, Stefan Overgaard takes the lead of the race in the pits. He passes Arthur Chan coming out of the pit lane. And Arthur Chan gets into trouble, dodging the Mustang right there. That was a last second save by Arthur Chan. Gets away from the faster Mustang going into the corner, but Stefan Overgaard made a quicker pit stop. Stefan's pit stop was only 6.9 seconds. Arthur Chan had a 9.4 seconds. So good pit stop helps Stefan Overgaard at least temporarily. Takes the lead of the race, and let's see if Arthur Chan has something to respond with. Meanwhile, now all the MX5s are in the pit lane, making their mandatory pit stops. Meanwhile, the 4 Mustangs still remain, not having made their pit stops. And all this has helped Giancarlo Lenzi, who's back up into 5th position, still 8.3 seconds behind Joseph Peak in 5th spot, in the 4th spot. But Giancarlo Lenzi is lapping 146.4s against Joseph Peak's 147.9, so 1.5 seconds each lap. Giancarlo Lenzi is gaining on Joseph Peak, so with this rate it should be a matter of 6-7 laps before we see Giancarlo Lenzi challenging for the 4th position in the MX5s. So at the moment, as we're living the end of lap 15, which means the leaders, the top 3 Mustangs, all have to come into the pit lane. We can actually follow Oscar Salin, who is in the pits at the moment, as seems to be Russell Clayson and Stephen McPherson. This was the latest possible entry point to come into the pit lane. So Oscar Salin, the leading MX5, leading Mustang, now makes his mandatory pit stop with the other top 3 runners. Now let's see if Steve Brown and Trace McRae, who are on the racetrack, let's see what they can do. Relatively to Oscar Salin, who is still sitting in the pits. Steve Brown, having made extremely fast pit stop, is coming in the main straightaway right now. Steve Brown takes at least a 2nd place in the race. Whether or not he was able to take the lead, yeah, Steve Brown takes the lead of this race when Oscar Salin has to make the pit stop. But meanwhile, something has happened to Trace McRae during that, between his personal pit stop and in fact, Trace McRae's pit stop was almost 7 seconds longer than Russell Clayson's, so and Oscar Salin. So Trace McRae loses a ton of ground, comes back in 3rd position after all the pit stops have been made. But that was a devastating pit stop for Trace McRae. Now he has 7.1 seconds approximately to catch Oscar Salin for 2nd place, and then another 6 seconds for the lead of the race. Whew. Lots of action going on, and still the leading 2 cars of the MX5 division is Arthur Chan and Stefan Overgaard. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Arthur Chan has retaken the lead. Yep, Arthur Chan has retaken the lead of the MX5s, with Stefan Overgaard right behind him, and these 2 are just flying. Jason Breifogel 4 seconds behind these 2. Joseph Peak 31 seconds behind Jason Breifogel. Giancarlo Lenzi now only 7.3 seconds behind Joseph Peak, so Giancarlo Lenzi is gaining on Joseph Peak 0.9 of a second each lap, so the relative gain has decreased a little bit, but still Lenzi should be able to catch Peak within the next 7 laps. So actually Giancarlo Lenzi's lap times are the only one able to match his pace at the moment is Arthur Chan in the lead. So with 60 more minutes left in the race, Giancarlo Lenzi, my guess would be that he's pretty close to gaining top 3 finish in this race. Not sure if he's able to match Arthur Chan, but should be able to catch Jason Breifogel in 3rd spot. So as we're living Lap 17. Steve Brown now, everyone having made their pit stop. Steve Brown is in the lead, Oscar Salin in second, Trace McRae in third, David Waters in fourth, Russell Clayson in fifth, Richard Basford in sixth, Dexter Castro in seventh, Stephen McPherson eighth. So that rounds up your Mustang field. Meanwhile, in the MX-5 division, Arthur Chan now in the lead of the race by 1.1 seconds over Stefan Overgaard, Jason Breifogel in third, Joseph Peak in fourth, Giancarlo Lenzi hounding him now 1.4 seconds a lap faster in fifth spot, sixth for Matthew Reinohl, seventh for John Montoya, eighth for Stephen Ashbury, ninth for John Richard, 10th for Michael Griesinger, 11th for Tom Eklund, and the last remaining Mustang in the race, Peter Brennan, 3 laps down. Meanwhile, outside of the screen, Giancarlo Lenzi has made a half spin on the grass, lost a little bit of time there. Just been told by Joni Hagner, outside of the screen, Giancarlo Lenzi does a small mistake in the infield, goes a bit wide. Let's see if he's... let's check out his current lap time. He's just about to cross the start and finish line. And we're gonna get the precise gap after this. So Lenzi across the line right here, and his lap time 1:48.1, so he lost 1.1 seconds to Joseph Peak on that lap, but nothing dramatic as long as he's able to keep that gap like it is right now, and well, maintain his rhythm, should I say. Meanwhile, the pack is now everyone having to make having made their pit stops. The field is slowly starting to settle down, with just over 1 second gaps showing all around. Meanwhile, the Stefan Overgaard still hounding Arthur Chan for the lead of the MX-5s, as we see right here on board. With Stefan Overgaard comes out of the last corner of the racetrack right here, keeps the throttle on very nicely. Then long grueling front straightaway, about I think it's over a 1 mile long main straightaway in the Indianapolis racetrack. Keep the throttle in 5th gear, long, hard, and little bit of banking in the oval turn 1 over the main straightaway. And now we're getting into the first corner of the road course, which is a tight 90-degree right-hander right here, hard braking down into 3rd gear, I believe, and don't go over the cones to get a black flag. Then after a 90-degree left-hander followed right after that, then hard on the throttle, short acceleration, now having onto the brakes again, another 90-degree right-hander, slightly more round shape, don't have to brake that much, then hard on the throttle again, through the fast full throttle right-hander, now hard braking into the 180-degree left-hander in the infield, long 180 degrees, very long corner after, followed by tight right-hander, which brings us to the infield straight. And not sure if you're able to gain a 5th gear in the infield straight, as you have to brake shortly after the bridge. Now you have to jump in the brakes for the left-hander, 90-degree left-hander right here. Keep your throttle on nice and tight, try to get the car as far to the left as possible, then to the hard right corner, keep your car on the right, another tight left-hander, try to get a maximum out of the corner, and then short acceleration and over the curbs, and back into the main straightaway. So that's a lap of the Indianapolis racetrack from Stefan Overgaard, Mazda MX-5. Still trying to get a good draft from Arthur Chan, but Arthur Chan is doing a pretty decent job. Looking at the fact that Arthur Chan's car does not have anyone to draft from, he doesn't get any additional speed to the main straightaway, and yet Stefan Overgaard is about 0.3 of a second a lap faster, but yet he's coming out of those last 2 corners. Arthur Chan is able to pull enough gap so that Stefan is just unable to maintain a good draft to set himself an overtaking spot. Which is quite surprising, because with these cars, especially with the MX-5, if you get a good draft out of the corner and you're within like a 0.3 of a second coming onto the main straightaway, the straight is so long that you can actually fly right past the other guy. If you have your gearing set up properly, you are able to fly right past the the car in front of you. Only because of these cars you can get insane amount of drafting because of the fact that they don't carry as much power. So accelerating on your own is much harder. So still all sorts of pressure applied from Stefan Overgaard to Arthur Chan. And meanwhile, Russell Cleeson made an additional pit stop. So Russell Cleeson in the Mustang, the 22 car, made an extra pit stop. So he dropped right back to the back of the Mustang field. He's now down into 8th place. Only Mustang having made 2 pit stops. Meanwhile, all the MX-5s all having made that mandatory pit stop. Nobody so far has made 2 pit stops. Meanwhile, now we could set the TV camera on Giancarlo Lenzi, because Lenzi is flying at the moment. 146 is all lap after lap, and the gap between him and Joseph Peak is now below 2 seconds. So shortly we should be seeing Giancarlo Lenzi catch the draft of the car in front of him, and as he does, his lap times are going to shortly be falling down even more. So as this seems to be the best battle on the racetracks, adding to the MX-5 leading battle, we could stick to Giancarlo Lenzi for just a quick, I would say a lap or so. Let's follow the Giancarlo Lenzi battle for just a full lap, because I'm pretty sure that with this lap Giancarlo Lenzi is going to catch Joseph Peak, and then we're gonna see an overtaking spot right here 1 lap later. 1.4 seconds again. Giancarlo Lenzi cuts off from Joseph Peak, and actually Lenzi is now right in the tail already. Didn't even get that half a lap before Lenzi was way faster coming into through those first 2 turns, and he's now lurking his left and right in the rear view mirrors of Joseph Peak. Nice driving from Giancarlo Lenzi overall, I have to say. Without that small touch with Arthur Chan in the beginning of the race, I would say Giancarlo Lenzi would definitely be leading at this point. Giancarlo Lenzi's last lap was 146 flat. Only one able to match that pace is Arthur Chan in the lead. So Lenzi doing an excellent job in 5th position, and now the delayed dive out exactly. He goes outside into the infield left-hander after the main infield straightaway. Giancarlo Lenzi makes an awesome pass outside line of the infield, and that was a gorgeous move and well thought out and well set up. Joseph Peak obviously thought that no point in trying to go too wide through that corner, because then Giancarlo Lenzi is going to have the advantage over the next right-hander, and surely he's going to take that spot. So why lose an extra bit of time when you can just settle behind the car? And now, even though Joseph Peak is going to get a good draft behind Giancarlo Lenzi, no, I don't think he's going to have enough pace to set up a pass again, even though Giancarlo Lenzi is slightly covering though, but I don't think Joseph Peak is having bad intentions going into the overtaking right here. I'm pretty sure he's going to... No, he actually goes too wide going into the first corner. Joseph Peak was not ready to give that spot up, so he fought all the way through that, and as you saw, that was a textbook overtaking right there. But Giancarlo Lenzi just having way much better car in those first 2 turns, so Giancarlo Lenzi gets up into 4th position, and now in his next target in his list is Jason Breifogel, but Giancarlo Lenzi has 28.3 seconds between him and Jason Breifogel, even though Lenzi is lapping 1.5 seconds faster than Jason Breifogel. 50 minutes remaining. He has that chance for the top 3 as I predicted earlier, but he is gonna have to be charging with these kind of laps throughout this race. So unfortunate touch for him. Meanwhile, the leader of the MX-5s, Steve Brown, at the moment is dealing with the traffic here. And in the exit of the last corner, he has much difficulties of getting past MX-5s. Meanwhile, Trace McRae, you can see in the background, trying to get past Arthur Chan, and Trace McRae gets past Arthur Chan right here in turn 3 and 4, and actually that's opened the door for Stefan Overgaard. Stefan Overgaard is now in the striking distance from Arthur Chan in the blue and white car behind Arthur Chan. So that Mustang overtaking traffic jam definitely helped Stefan Overgaard, but now as Arthur Chan got a bit of breathing space, he finds his rhythm again and doesn't seem to be able to just keep up with Arthur Chan. Obviously Arthur Chan's car has been set up to perfection, even though Arthur Chan takes a trip across the grass there, probably just underestimated his speed. Overestimated his speed. But no lost control there, keeps his car nice and tight. But let's just have a look at what happens now as they come into the front straightaway, and Stefan just might actually be close enough to get a good run on. As you can see, you can in your eyes how good of a draft you can get from a close distance in the early stage of the front straight, and Stefan is just simply going to fly right past Arthur Chan for the lead. He was able to maintain that distance to Arthur Chan because of the Mustang traffic, and now he makes a beautiful move. Insane draft assistance, of course, but Stefan Overgaard takes the lead of this race. But having said that, if Arthur Chan is able to maintain below 1 second gap coming out of the last corner next time by, I'm pretty sure Arthur is having enough top speed to, unless Arthur Chan has some sort of damage. My eyes on the track are reporting that some car has a bit of damage, but yeah, Arthur Chan has a little bit of damage in his car, so obviously that's going to affect his top speed, if not nothing else. Meanwhile, in the battle for the lead of the race in total, Steve Brown is now being hounded by Oscar Salin. These guys are right in each other's tail, and this is gonna be fun to watch because we jumped in the wrong fight. There we go. Right, they're almost side by side coming out of the last corner into the front straightaway. Steve Brown still leading Oscar Salin in second, but now even with the Mustang, that draft is surely going to help Oscar Salin. And if both cars are intact and without any damage, Oscar Salin is able to get a good run now coming into the the first corner. It's just a matter of whether he takes the gamble of late braking. Has a slight peak to the inside, but nope. Obviously Oscar is not that comfortable around turn 1, or then Steve Brown is simply out-braking him every time by, because he had a good run on him this time by and he just refused to execute that pass. But this seems to be developing into quite a fun little battle here. Meanwhile, Giancarlo Lenzi in that hunt for third place has taken a bit of a breather, as his last lap was 0.7 seconds slower than Jason Breifogel. In fact, Jason Breifogel was the fastest MX-5 of the whole field, outpacing the leader by 0.6 of a second. So, well, as I said, that Giancarlo Lenzi now refreshes his lap time, comes into the same lap, and he nailed a 146.9, so only 0.4 backwards, but still it's backwards for Giancarlo Lenzi. So Jason Breifogel also obviously noticed that Giancarlo is on the charge and he has time to catch him, so he just thought that he better step on the throttle slightly harder and start to seriously drive. Meanwhile, Steve Brown gets excellent drive this time by out of the last corner and gives no possibility for Oscar Salin whatsoever to try and catch him in the main straightaway. Meanwhile, that has also, while Oscar Salin lost the draft in front of him, Trace McRae behind Oscar Salin is actually in the drafting distance of Oscar Salin. Now he's already gained 0.2 of a second on this straight all alone, and Trace McRae is actually 1.1 seconds a lap faster than Oscar Salin. Lots of traffic jam going into the first corner. Leader is having a ton of difficulties dealing with the MX-5, has to go through the outside, nearly goes over the grass. Meanwhile, Oscar Salin tries to capitalize on the inside of the corner. They went 3 wide with the MX-5 in between, and Trace McRae also almost in the verge of taking advantage of that situation. That was a scary, scary moment right there. We actually might have another look at that. That was pretty much as scary as you can imagine. Being a race leader and having to deal with that sort of situation, that is not a pleasant thing to have. As we can see right here, the replay of that last incident, the MX-5 in front of them gives a ton of space, and Steve Brown just takes a too deep entry into the corner, goes sideways completely. The MX-5 backs off. Oscar Salin tries to capitalize off it, but doesn't have it, just loses the edge. But that was a... I'm sure I don't think Steve Brown is gonna want to do that, a lot of those in the future. I'm pretty sure that was bad for his tires, at least. Meanwhile, the MX-5 division, while the leading 3 cars are now packed within each other, so is the Jason Breifogel has actually found a lot of pace. Well, naturally, with the fact that Arthur Chan's car is damaged, Jason Breifogel has caught Arthur Chan. But still, Jason Breifogel surely is going to take that second spot because of Arthur Chan is lacking top speed at the moment. But still, Jason Breifogel has picked up the pace. He's actually matching Stefan Overgaard's pace in the lead of the race. Giancarlo Lenzi actually almost nailed his fastest lap time into 145s. 145.9 for Giancarlo Lenzi. Jason Breifogel 146.6, so another 0.7 of a second in favor of Giancarlo Lenzi, but he still has a good 20 seconds to catch. Should have enough time with that pace, but he has to maintain the pace throughout the race, or he's simply going to run out of time. That was a very unfortunate 36-second pit stop early for Giancarlo Lenzi, maybe because of that contact he had with the Arthur Chan's rear end, and maybe he just had 15 seconds of or 20 seconds of repairs, and he just decided to take it all because he was so early in the race. But sad thing to see it happen, because Lenzi, throughout this season, Lenzi has been a dominant force, or a force to be reckoned with in the MX-5s. But this time by, it seems that, well, Arthur Chan's, considering Arthur Chan is now down into third and pretty much outpaced at the moment, as we see Jason Breifogel takes a short trip across the grass. Doesn't give Arthur Chan enough space to get a good draft on him, though, as Arthur Chan has that broken car. But as I was saying, Arthur Chan now being off pace, Giancarlo Lenzi is catching more than 2 seconds a lap on Arthur Chan. So in that perspective, third place is more than available for Giancarlo Lenzi. But what about the second place of Jason Breifogel, who I was comparing him with earlier on? He's catching him as well, but with the second a lap. So this is actually getting quite interesting, as tough to get a proper readings from the relative gaps between Arthur Chan and Lenzi, since they're on the opposite sides of the track. Meanwhile, in the same battle for 6th spot, Dexter Castro and Russell Clayson are having their way around. Russell Clayson giving a lot of pressure for Dexter Castro. Dexter being one of the guys that took a trip across the grass in the infield in the last 3 corners. Let's see if Russell Clayson can pressure Dexter to make another mistake and possibly find a way around him that way. But both cars seriously throwing everything they have right now. Dexter going sideways in basically every single corner. Russell Clayson trying to dive the inside in every single corner, tries to find holes, causing both cars to slide a lot more than they usually do. Ooh, Dexter goes very, very sideways. Now Russell has a serious shot if he can get the power down into the inside straightaway, but doesn't seem to be quite as effective in the exit as he should be. No, Dexter still has a breathing space, but now, as we remember, this was the section where Dexter Castro did that trip across the grass. Let's see if he completes successfully. Yep, normal cornering this time by me, even though Russell Clayson gets a better exit, much tighter exit, goes on the throttle way earlier than Dexter Castro. Now Russell is again approaching pretty rapidly, but I don't think he has enough time with this car class to get a good run on him, but still he's giving all sort of pressure. Meanwhile, Oscar Salin and Steve Brown in the lead of the race are doing exactly the same thing. Oscar Salin is pressuring Steve Brown like a maniac, followed closely by Trace McRae. None of these guys afford to make a single mistake, or everyone's gonna fly right past them. And even behind these three cars, there's a good 14-second gap to fourth place runner of David Waters in 76 car in the Mustang field. Meanwhile, Oscar Salin dives to the inside, coming out of the last corner, takes the lead on the main straightaway, but now they're going side by side through the corner. Let's see if Trace McRae is able to capitalize on this one, because none of these guys are going to get a draft. They're side drafting each other right now, and Trace McRae is closing rapidly. 0.5 of a second to the leader, previous leader, Oscar Salin. 0.4 of a second now. Trace McRae is surely going to get a good run on it, because these guys are going side by side into the first corner. Let's see if it breaks the latest. Oscar Salin dives to the inside, and Steve Brown has to settle for second. Good battle for the win of the race in the Mustang class. Trace McRae now hounding the chases Steve Brown instead of Oscar Salin, who did an awesome maneuver coming out of the last corner, dived to the inside of Steve Brown, who went just a bit too wide coming out of that corner. And meanwhile, having watched this battle right here, Russell Clayson completes a pass on Dexter Castro. So Russell Clayson is up into 6th position right now. Meanwhile, in the MX-5s, Stefan Overgaard is still your leader. Jason Breifogel in 2nd, Arthur Chan 3rd, Giancarlo Lenzi in 4th, Joseph Peak in 5th, Matthew Reinohl 6th, John Montoya 7th, Steve Ashbury in 8th, John Richard 9th, and Michael Griesinger fills up your top 10 Mazda MX-5s. And the field, excluding the top 3 Mustangs, the field is starting to stretch out just slightly. We're still waiting on Jason Breifogel is now out catching Stefan Overgaard in the lead of the MX-5s by 0.1 of a second per lap. But with this rate, he is going to run out of time unless Stefan Overgaard makes a mistake. Meanwhile, Arthur Chan is 1.7 seconds behind Jason Breifogel, still pretty much off pace with that damage he took, at least in the straightaways. Meanwhile, Giancarlo Lenzi is still flying 146.3 and caught the leader by 0.4 of a second, but still he has 28.4 seconds to the 3rd place runner of Arthur Chan. So he still has enough time, but oh, as you can see right here, Steve Brown gets into contact with Oscar Salin for the lead of the race. Side touch there. I don't think anyone's either car got any severe damage, but that was pretty much as close as you could get. It still side by side going into turn 4, going into the hairpin. Oscar Salin still carries the momentum. He has the inside line into the hairpin. Let's see if Stephen Brown decides not to follow him too wide going into the hairpin. Instead, he cuts off Trace McRae from trying a maneuver on the inside line. But Trace McRae surely is monitoring the situation behind these two, because these guys are not only trading positions, but now they're trading paint as well. So this is getting very interesting. So for those of you who joined late, you're watching the 90-minute race of Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, round 8 at Indianapolis. The Continental Endurance Sports Car Series is sponsored by Safecraft Racing, your home for safety harnesses, belts and head nets. Drive fast, be safe, Safecraft Racing. So unlike the previous 7 races of the season, No more race marshals on the track this time by, so no full course cautions available. Everyone having made their mandatory pit stops within the first 15 to 16 laps. Currently watching the leaders, top 3 guys of the MX5 division. Steve Brown still holding that second place. Now Trace McRae is having a run on him. Coming into the turn 1, decides not to brake deep into the corner. Let's see if Steve Brown goes wide into the brake. No. Normal entry for Steve Brown. Trace McRae just showed his nose there and said, "You better keep up the pace or I will fly past you." As Trace McRae is trying to dive to the inside of the long distance braking on Steve Brown, but that surely is not going to work unless you're considering early retirement from the race. That is not a smart thing to do. Meanwhile, Stefan Overgaard in the MX5 division lead has increased his speed quite a bit. He actually nailed a 1:46 flat last time by, only 0.3 of a second from his personal best in the whole race. Now he nails after a refreshed lap, he nails a 1:46.9. Jason Breifogel responds with a 1:46.3. So 0.6 of a second again for Jason, in favor of Jason Breifogel. Arthur Chan in third position nails a 1:47.3, and Giancarlo Lenzi behind him responds with a 1.4 seconds faster lap time, 1:45.9 for Giancarlo Lenzi. So Lenzi clearly the fastest MX5 on the racetrack at the moment. With this rate, he will have a shot of. I would say with this rate, with the fact that Arthur Chan is slowing down, Giancarlo Lenzi is speeding up, Jason Breifogel catching the leader, and Stefan Overgaard being the third fastest, my guess would be that with this rate, after 30 minutes more, we're going to have a top 3 MX5s within one big pack. And meanwhile, still the battle between the lead of the race is undecided. Trace McRae now takes the lead, second place away from Steve Brown. This time he doesn't back down from the braking, goes into turn 1 heavy on the brakes, takes that second position in the race. So Trace McRae up into second position now in his crosshair number 84 car of Oscar Salin, the lead of the race. And in fact, the current 3 cars, the current 3 Mustangs you're watching at the moment on screen, the gray and blue, the green and the orange and blue car, they are the only ones having led this race so far. Oscar Salin having led 12 laps so far, Steve Brown 13 laps, and Trace McRae 8 laps. If I've understood correctly, there will not be additional points for most laps led in this series, unlike, for example, in the Team Afterburn IndyCar series, where you can get the most laps led points. But still, they're the only 3 guys having led the field. So unfortunately, we cannot get the same telemetry out of the MX5s because of the despite the multi-class issue, the telemetry is working in this basically single file system. In that sense. So as they come across the start and finish line now to start their 34th lap, the lead 3 Mustangs. The fastest of the 3 was Trace McRae with a 1:40.9. Oscar Salin in the lead being 0.3 of a second slower, and Steve Brown behind them is 1.4 seconds slower. So Steve Brown seems to be having melted his tires badly, because unless the lapped MX5 was the reason for that. But at the moment, Trace McRae is the fastest Mustang out there. Meanwhile, Giancarlo Lenzi is still in 4th position, and he is lapping insanely fast lap times. Every single lap he nails a near 1:46 lap time. And as I said, hard to get a real-time telemetry about the distance between Arthur Chan and Giancarlo Lenzi, because it changes so dramatically as they're in the separate sections of the racetrack. It shows 25 seconds every now and then, but then when they come to the start and finish line, it's up into 32 seconds. So it all depends on the measurement of the gap, relative gap between the 2 cars in iRacing Simulator. But still, I can say that Giancarlo Lenzi is closing more than 1 second a lap on Arthur Chan. So the gap is now we got updated information on the main straightaway, and it's 13.6 seconds. If that information is correct, and again 1.3 seconds, 146.2 for Giancarlo Lenzi. He is flying compared to Arthur Chan. Meanwhile, Lenzi's charge has obviously given Overgaard and Breifogel in the lead of the MX-5s something to think about, because they both also managed the 146.1 and 146.3. So Lenzi gaining only 1/10 on the top two runners. Meanwhile, Arthur Chan was, like I said, 1.3 seconds slower. So Lenzi has more than enough time to catch Arthur Chan for that third spot. And with this rate, I'm pretty sure there will be no difficulties for Lenzi to get that third place. So as the leaders of the Mustang are just about completing lap 35, could have a quick view of the current standings. So in the Mustang class, in the lead, Oscar Salin right 1.3 seconds ahead of Trace McRae. Steve Brown follows them in third position. David Waters in fourth, Richard Basford in fifth, Russell Clayson in sixth, Dexter Castro in seventh, and Stephen McPherson, the last remaining Mustang in the race, in eighth place, and Ayrton Ellis, not having started, DNF ninth position. Meanwhile, in the MX-5 division, Stefan Overgaard, studio race leader. Second place, Jason Breifogel, 5 seconds approximately behind him. Arthur Chan with a damaged car in third place, followed by Giancarlo Lenzi, the fastest MX-5 on the racetrack. Joseph Peak in fifth place, Matthew Reinhold in sixth, John Montoya seventh, Steve Ashbury in eighth, John Richard ninth, Michael Griesinger in 10th. Meanwhile, we have a crash! Giancarlo Lenzi crashes in the first corner, I believe it is. What on earth happened there? As I was reading through the standings, I was totally framed out of there. Let's have a replay of what exactly goes on there from the TV camera angle. That was the weirdest place to do a maneuver like that. He's coming to lap an MX-5 right here. A lapped MX-5 is holding the inside line into turn 1. Lenzi is on the outside, the dark green car, and just seems to be totally missed his braking spot. Lenzi just drives straight into the corner, straight out of the corner, and the lapped car actually follows him through that corner. And I don't know what on earth was that about, but it just seemed like both guys either lost their brake markers, or they have either some sort of a duel. They were duking out with each other and just trying to wreck each other out. I don't know what was that all about, but that surely cost Giancarlo Lenzi a million seconds of pointless seconds, and made it a lot more difficult to catch Arthur Chan. In fact, now it seems that it's almost impossible to catch Arthur Chan, because that gap is now up way over 30 seconds. So that's not sure what that move was, but that surely cost Giancarlo Lenzi any possible chance he had gaining third or higher position in this race, unless someone else has the same kind of wreck. But that'll be interesting to see if we get Giancarlo Lenzi after the race for an interview. What on earth went on there? So having done that extra trip to the grass, now it basically doesn't matter how fast lap times he might nail. Without any luck or misfortune for the top 3 MX-5 runners, there's no way Lenzi is going to be able to catch these guys anymore. And let's hope that we can get him for a post-race interview. I would love to find out exactly what happened there. Meanwhile, Trace McRae in the leading battle of the Mustangs is closing that gap between himself and Oscar Salin. And in fact, Oscar Salin and Trace McRae have pulled over a 4-second gap to them, and between them and Steve Brown. So Steve Brown clearly tore his tires apart and just is simply off pace at the moment, loses a second a lap against these two runners. So unfortunate there for Steve Brown, as Trace McRae is trying to sneak to the inside, going into the tight right-hander, which leads into the infield straight. But didn't have any luck that time around. But that was a weird place to try and sneak your way past it. That would have been a contact that would surely been a Trace McRae's fault, without a doubt. So 25 minutes still remaining in this race. Meanwhile, in the battle for 5th position in the Mustang division, Richard Basford is holding back Russell Gleason, who having few laps back, having passed Dexter Castro to get that 6th spot, is already caught Richard Basford, and 1.3 seconds a lap faster than Richard. So Russell Gleason is on the charge here, and if Russell can get past Richard, that pretty much solidifies him as the 5th spot in this race. But like Giancarlo Lenzi, that's going to be the end of his reign, because after that he's going to have a good 20.1 seconds. And in fact, right as we come back to the live screen, apologize for that being in a late replay view, Richard Basford dives into the pits, so he makes a second pit stop. Not exactly sure why. Maybe he just burned his tires too much, thought it was totally undrivable with those tires, comes back to get a fresh set of tires on, but that's gonna drop him all the way back to the back of the Mustang pack, in 8th place out of the 8 running Mustangs. So Oscar Salin, meanwhile, is still in the leading battle, still involved in the lead battle with Oscar Salin, and still these guys going all at it. Not both lapping 1 minute 42 seconds approximately, around that, slightly less, slightly more. They keep trading lap times, but Trace McRae still desperately trying to get that victory away from Trace McRae. Meanwhile, in the MX-5 division, things seem to have settled down pretty nicely. Stefan Overgaard again found more pace somewhere. Meanwhile, Jason Breifogel just backed off a little bit. The gap between them is 7 seconds. And Arthur Chan, still with the damaged car, is going backwards even more. Giancarlo Lenzi now again hitting 145s, but like I said, he's gonna run out of laps because he still has like good 25 seconds between him and Arthur Chan. He still has, theoretically, he has a chance to catch Arthur Chan, but he has to nail those laps, lap after lap, if he is holding any chance of catching him. He is going to have to fly like almost, I'm not sure if, not entirely sure exactly what the gap is. Have to wait and see when Giancarlo Lenzi comes into the front straightaway, because before that the relative gap is slightly impossible to say. But when Arthur Chan now hit 147, Lenzi is going to basically have to put a below 146s if he plans on catching Arthur Chan before the end of the race. So Lenzi comes across the start and finish line, and his time is 150.1. What on earth happened there? Either he made a dramatic error, or then he had to deal with the Mustangs or something like that. But that was a slow lap, and have to say that with the 20 minutes remaining in this race, he is not sure if he's even in a theoretical level, his chances of catching the 3rd place of Arthur Chan have decreased to odds of catching him have decreased down to almost 0. But We've seen like in IndyCar, in the MX-5, the Mustangs, the GTs, Corvettes, you name it. In every single competition we have seen drama happening in the last few laps. Even in the very last lap we've seen engines blown, off tracks, crashes, you name it. So nothing is final until the checker flag is there, so let's just wait and see. Meanwhile, Joseph Peak in the 5th place hits the wall in the exit of the exit of the last corner. Doesn't seem to be too damaged to make a pit stop, but let's just see. He's coming into the oval section right now. Does he have enough damage to decide to make a pit stop? Nope. The pit entry was right there on the left-hand side of the screen, and Joseph Peak decides to skip that chance and stays on track, but seems to be in a pretty comfortable 5th place in the MX-5 division. So as you can see in the start and finish line, Giancarlo Lenzi's gap is 31.7 seconds between him and Arthur Chan. So with less than 19 minutes to go, there's no way Lenzi is going to be able to catch them anymore. So pretty desperate run from Giancarlo Lenzi. Started all the way from lap 2 where he had or lap 3 when he had a contact with Arthur Chan while they were the top 2 MX-5s in the race. It's just a slight nod, just obviously wrecked Lenzi's car, had to make a long pit stop, dropped to the back of the pack, did a brave maneuver, brave drive, overtaking guys up into 4th place, but that seems to be the end of that reign. But good 4th place for Giancarlo Lenzi if he finishes the race, the last 18 minutes of this race in that spot. Good job from this guy, and he's been one of the fastest MX-5s in the almost every race of the season where he attended. And meanwhile, the lead battle, by the way, Trace McRae is now right in the braking zone. He's right in the tail of Oscar Salin right here, and with 17 minutes to go, now Trace McRae's the dominant force of the series this year is surely putting on every bit of pressure he can, coming out of the turn 4 right here. He gets a way better drive, and Oscar Salin has to lift off. It goes over the curb. Trace McRae dives himself into the lead of the race with 17 minutes to go. Now we just wait and see if Oscar Salin has anything to respond to Trace McRae's pace, who normally when he comes into the lead, that's a bye-bye for everyone else, and Trace McRae is going to drive into the sunset. Let's see if Oscar Salin is able to match, if he has anything in reserve for Trace McRae. Now they're coming behind a lapped MX-5. Nope, the MX-5 gets out of the way for both runners. Good job from, I don't know who it was, but MX-5 gets out of the way very nicely. Oscar Salin seems to do a pretty good job of catching, closing into Trace McRae over these few sections of corners. Now they're coming into the long front straight, and Trace McRae leading Oscar Salin now by 0.8 seconds. Pretty sure he's going to he's still in the drafting distance, but that surely is not going to give him any possibility to overtake. But he is going to close that gap down. Now it's down to 0.7 of a second. The draft is starting to bite off those few hundredths of a second all the way around. Let's see if he gets into 0.6 of a second before the braking zone. Yep, 0.6 of a second, so 2/10 gathered back during that front straightaway. Now it's just a matter of he has to be within that 0.8 seconds behind Trace McRae when they come out of that last corner, or unless he otherwise he is going to lose that draft. And after that, it's probably going to be job well done, Trace McRae, and he's going to secure that victory. As long as Oscar Salin is able to hang with Trace McRae in the draft, he still has a chance. Meanwhile, we have a spin of a 44 car of Matthew Reinhold. Matthew Reinhold takes a spin. Let's see if we can get a quick replay of that. Matthew Reinhold does a spin. Not sure exactly what happened there. Currently watching the replay of Matthew Reinhold. Coming into that long sweeping left-hander hairpin. Now the hard right-hander leading into the inside straightaway, and well, not sure if my eyes on the track has his eyes slightly twisted or not, but I don't at least can't see any dramatic spins from him. But yeah, here we go. Not a spin, but yep, it's a spin. It's a spin, all right. After the infield straightaway, the tight left-hander just goes on the brake slightly too much while riding the inside of the curb. Doesn't get that car to settle down before he loses the back end, but no harm done. Reinhold maintains that 6th spot, and scary moment there. Of course, you don't want that to happen when you're racing it personally, but so currently 14 minutes. The last 1/6 of the race is underway, with Trace McRae now in the lead of this race and still being hounded by Oscar Salin right here, and as you can see in the screen, it's less than a 1 second of a gap, and coming on the infield straight now, and if 0.7 of a second right now. So if Oscar Salin exits the last corner with this gap, the gap is going to be less than a half a second when they break into the first corner. Let's see if Oscar Salin maintains the gap here. Trace McRae now diving into the right-hander. The last corner gets a bit sideways coming out of there. Oscar Salin still in the hunt, 0.9 of a second. He is in the verge of losing the draft right here. Let's see if whether or not that is actually the case. No, Salin seems to pick the right in the edge of the getting the draft. Now down to 0.7 of a second. So Oscar Salin still has a shot of Trace McRae here, but only less than 13 minutes to go. But like I was saying, in the Mustang division, Trace McRae, as you can see, is leading the race by half a second over him, and between him Oscar Salin, Steve Brown in 3rd position, David Waters in 4th, Russell Clayson in 5th, Dexter Castro in 6th, Stephen McPherson 7th, Richard Basford in 8th, and Aaron Ellis, not having started the race, DNF 9th position. MX5 division still being controlled by Stefan Overgaard by 6.6 seconds over Jason Breifogel. Arthur Chan is in 3rd position. Giancarlo Lenzi still in 4th. Joseph Peak in 5th. Matthew Reinhold in 6th. John Montoya 7th. Stephen Ashbury 8th. John Richards 9th. 10th is Michael Griesinger, and 11th Peter Brennan, the last remaining MX5 on the racetrack. 5 laps down compared to Stefan Overgaard. And that was the positions with 12 minutes remaining in the 8th round of the CESCS, the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series race at Indianapolis. 90 minutes of racing in the multi-class Mustangs and MX5s. And Trace McRae in the screen is the leader of the MX5 division, the Mustang division, and now Oscar Salin being held back by the lapped MX5 has now given a 2.1 second gap for Trace McRae between him and Oscar Salin. Well, it's actually 1.3 seconds now, because the relative gaps now they're in the same straightaway, so we can get an accurate reading. Yep, 1.3 seconds between Trace McRae and Oscar Salin. So that has given actually the Trace McRae now the chance to escape Oscar Salin, because Oscar doesn't have the draft anymore. And this seems to be the only battle on the racetrack at the moment. The MX5s have sorted their battle out pretty nicely. The closest MX5 battle is the Jason Breifogel Stefan Overgaard fight, and still that gap is approximately 5 seconds. Still, we can see Trace McRae and Oscar Salin giving everything they got when these Mustangs sliding their car as heavily as you can possibly get without losing the rear end. Trace McRae again seems to be repeating what he has done several races this season so far. Just simply outpaces everyone with being consistent, saving his tires and still maintaining a fast pace through the race. And we haven't seen Stefan Overgaard in the pictures that much, so leader of the MX5 groups could be a funny, good spot of welcoming him to the television, because we haven't seen this guy much, but he currently is leading the MX5s, and unless a miracle happens or an unfortunate accident, he is going to win the MX5s. Meanwhile, as the field gives me a bit of breathing space, I could have a quick view of the fastest lap times of both fields. Fastest lap of the Mustang field, and naturally the whole race so far is being held by Trace McRae with a 140.207, closely being followed by Oscar Salin with a 140.375, so 0.17 seconds between those two guys. But the next fastest lap is Steve Brown's 140.880, 884, sorry. So a good half a second between Steve Brown's fastest lap between the two, comparing to the top two Mustangs. In the MX5 division, the fastest lap currently of the race being held by Giancarlo Lenzi with a 145.5, 2/10 slower, 145.7 from Stefan Overgaard, and 145.8 from Arthur Chan before that incident where he wrecked his car and took away the top speed of that car. But still the top three familiar names: Arthur Chan, Giancarlo Lenzi, Stefan Overgaard, settling, appearing out of the pack, with only 3 cars reaching that magical 145 marker. Jason Breifogel following closely with a 146.1. So camera still at Stefan Overgaard's roll bar camera, and Stefan Overgaard now has 8 minutes remaining. So my estimate would be that the 6th lap, he now has 6 more full laps, depending on, of course, how the leading Mustangs are going to lap him. But my guess would be that now he's coming to the main straight, 6 full laps more for Stefan Overgaard, and after which he can be solidified as the winner of the Indianapolis 90-minute CESCS season race, 8th race of the season out of the 10 possible. Stefan just barely gets the 5th gear on without any drafting assistance. Doesn't accelerate that much anymore, as he has to brake hard into the turn 1, gets slightly wide, takes the middle entry of the road, just stays out of trouble. Obviously he doesn't have anyone to race with. He hits a 146.6 that last lap by Jason Breifogel, 0.2 a second faster, but no point for Stefan Overgaard to take any pointless risks. He knows that all he has to do is bring this car home safely, and he has that victory in his pocket. Meanwhile, Oscar Salin still has not given up for the battle of the win of the Mustang division. Last time by 0.03 of a second, Oscar Salin caught Trace McRae. Currently sitting on board with Oscar Salin riding currently in second position, coming out of the last corner right here, and let's see, he still maintains that 0.8, of a second gap to Trace McRae, but both guys really hammering it down hard now, and unless there's a lap traffic which would help Oscar Salin, my guess is that Trace McRae is not going to make any foolish mistakes and allow that gap to decrease up to the point where Oscar Salin might have a run on him coming into turn 1, but last time by, wow, half a second! Oscar Salin closes down half a second to Trace McRae in that last lap, but Trace McRae, unlike I predicted, he seems to be having problem with his tires, goes very wide into turn 1, goes over the curbs into the grass in turn 2, now he takes an instant defensive line into turn 3, Oscar Salin is now hounding him down. This is going to be building up to be a tremendous battle for the lead of for the win of the Mustang division and the whole race. 5.5 minutes remaining, so these guys have to do, in my books, they have to do 4 full laps. And if Trace McRae is taking that much of a defensive line already, I wonder what the situation is going to be coming into the last lap of the race, if he is going to be in the lead of the race by then. So Oskar Salin is now 0.5 of a second behind him as they go into the last sequence of corners. Gets very, very sideways. Oskar Salin cannot get the car to turn in properly. Goes in slightly too hard. Now gets over the left-hander. Meanwhile, we have a spin. Giancarlo Lenzi spins. Giancarlo Lenzi spins in the familiar places, right in the at the ending part of the track. Lenzi takes a spin, but still maintains that 4th place and gives a slight opportunity for Joseph Peak now. Joseph Peak behind him, still 5 seconds between them, but Giancarlo Lenzi cannot take another spin like that. So, meanwhile, in the battle for the lead, Oskar Salin now again 0.7 of a second behind Trace McRae. Trace McRae had a solid lap behind him again. As you can see, lots of rubber planted into the tarmac by Trace McRae. Goes very sideways every time that first sequence of corners. Meanwhile, Oskar Salin takes a much more understeering approach. Doesn't slide that car as much, and the gap is still down to 0.6 of a second. So Oskar Salin giving everything he's got. And the last lap by Trace McRae was 0.2 of a second faster, probably because of that penultimate corner error made by Oskar Salin, where he's just brought the car in slightly too hard, didn't get the car to turn in, lost that few tenths of a second in that maneuver, but still has a serious chance. Oh, oops, my bad. I jumped into the wrong battle here. Supposed to follow Oskar Salin right here. So 3 minutes 10 seconds remaining in the race. So we're probably looking at, as we see the leaders come across the start and finish line, this is actually going to be very, very close, because you have my guess would be that they have 2 more laps. Yeah, 2 more laps. They're gonna get the white flag next time by. So Trace McRae and Oskar Salin are still trying to battle out for the win of the race. And again, the gap is down to 0.7 of a second at the end of the front straight. Trace McRae again, as you can see, slides his car all the way over the right side curve of the track. Again, it's a huge slide going into the brakes into turn 3. Oskar Salin closes him every time on this section of corners, but now with 2 laps remaining, Oskar has to make some sort of desperate maneuver unless he can nail that last sequence of corners to get closer to Trace McRae's rear end. You have to remember that the dirty air is not a factor with these cars. You can really ride within 0.2, 0.3 of a second with ease behind someone if you just know your way around the racetrack, because the rear end of the Mustang blocks your sight quite nicely. So as you can see, again we can see Oskar Salin just goes into the corner slightly too hard, and he just misses the entry to the next corner because of that. And again the gap is up into 0.8 of a second. So I don't know why Oskar chooses to do that, but now as he gets a far better exit out of the last corner, and the gap is 0.6 of a second right now. White flag in the air this time by for Trace McRae, the leader of the MX-5s. Meanwhile, in the Mustangs, meanwhile in the MX-5s, the position, none of the positions have been changed. Stefan Overgaard still leads the MX-5 division. Jason Breifogel in second, Arthur Chan in third, Giancarlo Lenzi fourth, and Joseph Peak filling your top 5. Meanwhile, in the Mustang division, Trace McRae right in the screen, defending the lead of the race, as we're in the white flag right now. Oskar Salin trying to find his way past Trace McRae right here at the very last lap of the race. Steve Brown in third, David Waters in fourth, Russell Clayson fills the top 5. So in the last lap of the 90-minute race of the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series at Indianapolis Road, as Trace McRae goes very sideways going into the hairpin. That gives Oscar Salin a chance to close right up into. Oscar Salin takes a normal entry, whereas Trace McRae took a deep route. That's going to cost Trace McRae a lot of the exit speed. As you can see right here, coming into the infield straight, Oscar Salin right now is 0.4 of a second behind, 0.3 of a second. So good draft right now from Oscar Salin. Let's hope that he doesn't overdrive this corner this time around. Nope. This time far better entry for Oscar Salin. Now he seriously has a good chance of getting past Trace McRae coming out of the last few corners. Let's hope that he doesn't get it. But fierce sort of a wheel spin coming out of that corner. Now a good run out of the last corner. It's 0.5 of a second, but it's not going to be close enough. Valiant effort from Oscar Salin, but just barely misses the exit of the penultimate corner. Doesn't get the power down as well as he would want to, so he is going to be marked as like less than a half a second between him and Trace McRae. Trace McRae is the leader of the race. Trace McRae takes the win of the Indianapolis 90-minute road. Excellent run by Trace McRae here, with Oscar Salin finishes in second place. Steve Brown with those melted tires finishing the race in third position. Lonely run for Steve Brown after that fierce battle for the top three with the Mustangs, and David Waters coming out of the last corner. Now he's going to finish in fourth. Pretty lonely, much more lonely run for David Waters as Steve Brown had, because David Waters has been throughout this race, he's been stuck in pretty much void between the top three and the bottom three. So good strong fourth place, no mistakes for David Waters. Russell Clayson meanwhile still has switched places quite a few times during this race, but still a good strong run for Russell Clayson. Overtook a couple of cars, lost a couple of positions, took him right back. 5th position overall. Good run from Russell Clayson. Meanwhile, in the lead of the MX-5s, as we can see right here on your screen, Stefan Overgaard, the winner of the MX-5s, manages to keep that lead from Jason Breifogel, who finishes in second. Tried to get, desperately tried to catch Stefan Overgaard for the lead, but didn't, run out of laps. Still strong performance by Jason Breifogel, gets that second position, especially with the fact that Giancarlo Lenzi is in the fourth position. Arthur Chan with that damaged car, excellent run and didn't take a DNF, didn't stop. Excellent run from him, and without that damage, could have. My guess would be that he would have been my personal favorite to win this race, but took a little bit of damage, and let's see if we can get him in the post-race interview to find out exactly what happened to his car, what caused him to be that slow in the latter part of the race. But still a strong third place in front of Giancarlo Lenzi, who had even more misfortune right at the beginning of the race. Got that rear end contact with Arthur Chan. Got some damage to his car. Had to take a long pit stop early on, and fought his way around. Took another spin across the grass. That's one of the things I'd like to ask about him. But let's see if we can catch him. So as the field is, everyone has reached the start and finish line. Let's have a quick look at the final results. So, Trace McRae in the Mustang division as your race leader by 0.4 of a second between him and Oscar Salin. Steve Brown in third, David Waters in fourth, Russell Clayson in fifth. Now it's showing Richard Basford in sixth, but not sure if that is accurate, because have to see what happened there, because some of the guys went into the pits, some of the guys went out of the track, but that may be a bug in the telemetry. But anyway, Dexter Castro in 7th, Stephen McPherson in 8th, Richard Basford, Stephen McPherson, the last remaining Mustang in the field. Ayrton Ellis did not start the race, 9th position for him. And in the MX-5 division, Stefan Overgaard wins the race. Jason Breifogel finishes in 2nd, Arthur Chan in 4th, Giancarlo Lenzi in 4th, Joseph Peak in 5th, Matthew Reinhold in 6th, John Montoya 7th, Stephen Ashbury in 8th, John Richards 9th, Michael Grisinger in 10th, Peter Brennan last, MX-5 in 11th. So we're gonna get a couple of guys for being interviewed, and what would be better than to start from the person involved in that weird spin. Giancarlo Lenzi finished the race in 4th place. Welcome, Giancarlo. Giancarlo, can you read me?
Yeah, hey, sorry, what was the question?
My question was that what was that weird spin all about when you and some lapped MX-5 had in the turn 1?
Embarrassing. So I was going down the straights, and I think it was Tom Eklund, and I was hoping that he wasn't going to keep on the inside and that he was going to drop back to me on my backside because he was lapped. I kept waiting for him to come off my spotter so that I wouldn't run into him going into the turn. And when I was doing that, I wasn't watching my peripheral very well, which was the the distance between 2 and the turn.
And you made a pit stop in the very early stages of the race. Was there did you get any damage from you with the contact between you and Arthur Chan in the opening few laps?
No, I was following Arthur, and I know the situation you talk about. I was following him real good. He was holding a pretty good line. He went a little wider than I thought. I couldn't see the edge of the track, so I went off a little wide. I didn't contact him, but I felt like I was overdriving, so I decided to go in for a pit early, and maybe I could catch him and Stefan, on the back around. But I ended up getting a speeding in pits, and I forgot to turn my tires off for my pit, and so I had a bunch of extra time.
Yeah, that explains the long pit stop, because we were wondering if the long pit stop was because of damage being repaired. But anyway, strong 4th position. You were basically hot lapping. You were one of the fastest MX-5s there throughout the race. How did you overall see that race? I mean, were you like a... Do you think you have without that last moment spin you had? Do you think you would have had a spot for 3rd place?
I was checking, and I was talking to my spotter, and he said that I was starting to catch Arthur, and that Arthur had damage, and I was catching him about maybe half a second, but I was 20 seconds away from him, approximately. So I don't know. At 15 minutes towards the end of the race, I thought maybe I could catch him, but I had that unfortunate spin on the 3rd to last turn, leading to the oval section, and that just kind of killed everything. I thought maybe I could do it, but I don't know.
Well, anyway, congratulations for the 4th spot. What are your thoughts on upcoming race in 2 weeks? Do you have any goals set up for there?
Do better than the last 4 weeks for me.
Well, good job anyways, and let's switch now back to the other man involved in the early touch, at least in the TV cams that showed an early touch, Arthur Chan.
Hello, Yoni.
How you doing, man? Finished in 3rd place, and you seem to be lacking pace all of a sudden in the midway point of the race. You want to talk us through that?
Yeah, this was going pretty well for me. Had a nice fight with Overgaard in the first couple of laps, and I got myself into a position where I was in front of him and pretty comfortable in pace and managing the gap, and I pretty well had a brain fade coming onto the front straight, trying to let a Mustang by. And classic case, I took a line which I'd never really taken before, and I ran out of road and touched the wall, and after that the car was just all over the place. Pretty well, anytime I was over 120 miles an hour, the car was starting to fishtail on me, which made the end of the straight very interesting.
Were you nervous at any point that Giancarlo was able to catch you? At one stage he caught you like a second and a half per lap.
Yeah, I was watching Giancarlo quite carefully, and I was trying to calculate in my head whether I should pit to take the repairs or not, but it seemed like he was having his own problems, and his gap stayed more or less steady in the high 20 seconds, so I think it was the right choice to stay out in my case.
And what are your thoughts on in 2 weeks we're going to be heading to the Laguna Seca 90-minute race there? What are you're waiting for that track, or was this better for you?
Laguna Seca is a pretty interesting track. We just did that in Grand Touring Cup this past week. It's a track a lot of us know very well because I think a lot of us have driven it for quite a few years now. Interesting track. There's quite a few places where you can take a chance to gain more lap time, and I'm anticipating it'll be pretty action-packed.
Well, not much to not much to say. Then congratulations for your well-earned third position, should I say, because you were the only one of the top 4 with a badly damaged car, and still you survived the 3rd place. So congratulations for that. And
thanks very much, Yoni.
Let's bring in then the 2nd place runner, Jason Breifogel, the MX-5s.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. You?
A foot sitting from trying to keep it on the clutch, but that's about it. Otherwise, I'm doing pretty well. It's a boring race for me, actually.
Yeah, you were involved in all sorts of funny situations. I was watching through the race. First, you were having your way around to some other MX-5s. In the late stage of the race, you were trying to catch Stefan Overgaard. And how was your race overall? There was so much action with all the MX-5s and the top 3 Mustangs that was hard to catch, like track down a single person around the track. So how did you see that?
Well, I really couldn't catch Stefan at all, or even Arthur before he got damaged. They have just a little too much pace for me. So I was kind of hoping for him to get more traffic, because that's the only time I was catching Stefan was when he hit traffic. Otherwise, I was just trying to hold station. That's it.
Modest words from a 2nd place runner. Still, were you having any? Were you watching the F3 about Giancarlo rushing through? Because I think it was like 40 minutes remaining. That my estimate was that at the time, at the rate Giancarlo was closing on you guys, he was going to challenge you for 2nd place possibly at the end of the race. So, were you worried about that?
There was a point I thought when I went by him in the pits that like something bad happened to him. He was out, so I was kind of surprised when he showed up back there again. I was like, oh crap. I was keeping an eye on it, but once we were inside like 15 minutes and he disappeared from my screen, then I stopped worrying about it.
And final question for you, your thoughts on the next race in 2 weeks, Laguna Seca?
Not good. Laguna Seca and I do not get along. I don't like that track at all for some reason. It doesn't agree with me. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
Well, enjoy your 2nd place while it lasts. If you're confident that it's not you're not gonna be able to repeat that in Laguna Seca. But yeah, congratulations for the 2nd place. And let's bring in the winner of the MX-5s, Stefan Overgaard.
Yes, hello.
How are you doing, man? Sweaty?
Yeah, very good, thanks. My first win in the series.
Yeah, it was not an easy one. I was watching you guys developing your gap, and Jason was catching you like a few tenths per lap. Then you were outpacing him a few tenths a lap, and Giancarlo meanwhile was closing on you guys like half a second to second a lap. So how did you see that race?
Well, I got a lot of things going for me in this race. In the start, I just hooked on to Arthur, and as Jason and Giancarlo had early pit stops, he made a good pace, so I could build up a gap. And then after the pit stops, I saw that Jason was about, I think, 7-8 seconds behind. And he stayed there. And then Arthur hit the wall, and I was able to overtake him then.
Were you confident in the last half of the race that you were able to maintain the lead without any dramatic mistakes?
Yeah, mostly traffic was keeping up, fluctuating the distance a bit to Jason, but otherwise it stayed pretty permanent.
And same question for you. In 2 weeks, Laguna Seca is coming up. Your favorite, or you dislike it?
Definitely not one of my favorites. Been there a few times in the Grand Touring Cup, but yeah, let's see how it goes.
Well, congratulations for the win of the race, and let's keep keep the hype up, and hope to see you in the podium in the Laguna Seca.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And while we have been talking to only 4 MX5 runners, let's bring in the winner of the Mustang race, Trace McRae.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Going very well. How are you?
Oh, I'm asked if he's sweating. I'm sweating pretty good over here.
You had a pretty eventful race, especially with there was a one lap where at the turn 1 you were going to the from the outside of turn 1. I think you went wide under braking, trying to lap an MX5. Then you had Oscar Salin on the right side of you, so you guys went 3 wide with MX5 being the cheese in the sandwich. So how did you see that incident?
It was definitely interesting. I kind of seen it happen, and I was just kind of hoping I played it right. I don't know. I wasn't sure where the MX5 was going when it was all said and done, but I was a little cautious, and it worked out. I don't know.
And you and Oscar fought all the way to the start and finish line. Were you confident and you were able to hold him back?
Oh no. I think Oscar's tires went away with 15 to go, and mine went away with about 8 to go. I thought he was going to come get it. I'm surprised he didn't. So I was struggling at the end. I made several mistakes.
And you had also the top 3 battle going quite a bit of time with you, Oscar, and Steve Brown. You must have enjoyed that. I mean, you guys were you were just most of the time you were behind these two, watching them going 2 wide in the main straightaway, and it must have been a blast.
Yeah, that was a good battle. I was definitely having fun watching it. I think ultimately, honestly, that's what won me the race, because I was kind of just saving tires, and I think that's why I had a little bit more.
And the first of the first of the Mustang opinions in 2 weeks, Laguna Seca. You're looking forward to that?
I can't say I'm looking forward to it. I like driving on the track, but racing, especially with these 2 different cars, I'm not so sure it's going to be interesting. The corkscrew is always interesting. I think Lime Rock's going to be fun too, the last race, so who knows what's going to happen with these.
Well, you seem to be a dominant force in the series. I mean, most of the races, if not every race, you've been in running amongst the top, and in some of the races, just owning the field by several seconds. Any lack of motivation or of coming to Laguna Seca because you dislike the track, or you're going to keep the momentum up?
I don't know. I'm going to run it and see what happens. That's all I ever do. You know, I think Oscar's just as fast, and Brian, when he makes it, just as fast. Russell's fast. There's plenty of guys that are fast. You never know what's going to happen. It's racing, so.
Well, congratulations for the yet another win in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, and let's bring in then the 7th place finisher, Dexter Castro of the Mustang division.
Hello.
Hi there. How did you see your race? You were battling, if I'm not mistaken, you were trading positions with Russell, Stephen, Richard throughout the race. How did you see it?
Well, this was, to be honest, I was just really slow, and it just seemed like whatever I did I was just unusually slow this week, and I was amazed I was even able to keep up with them.
But did you do any damage during the race, or I see it? I'm not sure if it was you, but in the battle groups that you were involved, there was a couple of times where you guys just traded paints, door paints, and did you suffer any damage during that race at all, or was it a clean race of just trying to get to the finish?
Well, it ended up just being a clean race. I didn't seem to spin, or I had one slide near the beginning where I got sideways, but other than that it was really clean and just in general slow. I mean, I think it was at the end, I believe it was Richard came up and he had incredibly fresher tires and he was just picking off about 2.5 seconds a lap on me, and he got me with a couple corners to go.
Yeah, that was a interesting point that I forgot to ask from all the other guys in this race. The fact that there was no race marshals in this race, so you guys knew that there was not going to be full course cautions in any point. Did that affect on your decisions on when to get the fresh tires and when to make the forced pit stop?
I had actually been considering trying to do a two-stop thing if there had been cautions, but then when I heard there wasn't cautions, I just basically decided to pit as late as I could, as far as I was allowed, and then just hopefully run till the end.
Yeah, that seemed to be what the half the field was thinking. There was a half the field pitting early and half pitted later on, both in the Mustangs and in the MX-5s. But Dexter, in 2 weeks, Laguna Seca, your thoughts on that?
Well, hopefully that's usually a much better track than this for me, so I'm hoping I can get on that. It's just such a fun track to try and just hit the apex, and if you hit it right, you just roll right through the corner. If you miss it, then you're off in the sand.
Wow, dude, you're the first one to say that. At least someone is looking forward to Laguna Seca. Well, congratulations on the seventh place. Then are you looking forward to improving from that 7th place in Laguna Seca, since you seem to favor that?
Well, I'm doubting I can go much lower. I mean, I was just near the back half today, and I just was a back marker, I guess.
Well, still, it's still a 7th place, and well, your personal perspective, you can only gain from this. So, looking forward to seeing you improve in the Laguna Seca then. And the last person to interview tonight will be Joseph Peak, who came in 5th, I think, in the MX-5s.
How's it going?
Going well. You?
Bit of a long, boring race, truth be told.
Yeah, you were one of the few MX-5s that we didn't see in the TV that much, mainly because of the fact that you were not involved in any close battle. You were always in the middle of the 2 or 3 battling groups. So boring race. But was there any stage of at any stage of the race, was there any like worth pushing, or was it just a lonely cruise?
Yeah, actually, I had to push a lot with about maybe 20 minutes to go because Matthew Reinhold was catching me about a second a lap for a bit, and then he made a mistake, so I kind of got away a little easy.
But short and sweet, boring race, good finish.
Yeah, I can't complain.
And what are your thoughts on the Laguna Seca in 2 weeks? You like that or dislike that?
I love Laguna Seca. I'm looking forward to it probably because one of my strengths I feel like is staying out of trouble, so I'm hoping the corkscrew will catch a few people out.
Well, now we have at least one Mustang and one MX-5 who like the Laguna Seca. Everyone else who I asked, they had a slightly different opinion. But anyway, 5th position, and you have any expectations for the remaining 2 races of the season in terms of race positions?
I'd just like to keep getting top 5s. I mean, if I have a really good race, maybe a podium. Kind of threw things away at Watkins Glen, so I just want to try and finish the season in the top 5, I guess.
Okie dokie. So that pretty much sums up the race. I want to thank everyone in the commentary booth for stopping by for an interview. And this has been the 8th race of the CESCS season at Indianapolis, 90-minute race, and the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series is sponsored by Safecraft Racing, your home for safety harnesses, belt belts and head nets. Drive fast, be safe with Safe Craft Racing. And this has been the Glacier TV broadcast of the CESCS series, and we'll be back in 2 weeks at Laguna Seca Raceway. Meanwhile, be sure to check the GlacierTV.com series schedule for the complete schedule of TFR Super Cups, Touring Car Championships, Team Afterburn IndyCar Series, and of course the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, remaining 2 races of the season. I was Joni Beckman, and Joni Hagner was my eyes on the track right now. And until the next race, all I can say is good night.